Hello and welcome to my new video. Since my last spring clean out video, I've encountered some pH issues with my pond. The pH from the tap in my area is 7.5 and it usually goes up to about 8 once the water has been in the pond for a few weeks. This is fairly normal, but for some reason it had gone up to 8.5 this time and my fish were showing signs of stress. So I decided to do a slow water change over a period of 4 days to help bring the pH down again. 25% of the water would be replaced and dechlorinator was added during the water change. This seemed to help. The pH had come down to 7.5 and the fish seemed a little happier, so I kept a close eye on the parameters to see if the pH would rise again. Lo and behold, on the 5th day, after the water change, my pH had risen to 8.5. Something was not right here, and I had a very funny feeling I knew what it was. The only thing that had changed with my pond was the addition of the phosphate remover I had used a few weeks ago. It got me thinking, had it had a bad reaction with the Resolve that I had used to combat the blanket weed? The following morning, I decided to lift the boards that cover my filters, and I was hit with what only I can describe as a chemical smell, with a smell of rotting algae to boot. Taking a closer look at the pond liner, I noticed a green film build up that did not look like algae, yet it just didn't seem right. It was very lightly coloured. After giving it lots of thought, I now personally believe that the phosphate remover had had a bad reaction with the blanket weed treatment. It had settled on the new algae that was growing and stuck to it. I'm sure that this was changing the parameters of the water slowly. Unfortunately, I was not able to remove the algae with the pond vac, so a decision was made to drain the pond and jet wash it again, including the rockery stones and slate chippings. A laborious task, but it needed to be done. Now I know a few of you might be thinking that this might seem a little extreme, as it was only done the other week, but I really did have no other way of cleaning the liner. After a few hours, the liner and stones had all been cleaned. The pond was filled up again with fresh water, dechlorinator and Resolve was added before the fish was returned. It has now been 8 days since the pond had been jet washed, and my pH is still at 7.5. So, in conclusion, I believe that the phosphate remover and Resolve had reacted badly with one another, causing the pH to rise slowly, and I was unable to wash it out with the slow water changes. One thing I wanted to show you guys was my digital water meter. I've always used a water meter whenever I'm filling up my pond. This is a great way to know exactly how much treatment would be required for my pond and customers' ponds who I regularly maintain. They are about £23 on Amazon and well worth the money. For those who have seen my last video, I mentioned that my Chagoi had developed what looked like the start of an ulcer. It had raised scales on one of its sides and they looked like they were starting to turn red and slightly pussy in the scale pockets. I needed to treat the Chagoi with aquaflavin and salt, but I also needed to raise the water temperature to 22 Celsius. So I managed to get hold of a vat that was going free from a friend of mine who didn't need it any longer. So I began installing a bottom drain into it, blanked off a hole in the side and put a 2-inch tank connector in for the return. Next, I went and purchased an Easy Pod by Evolution Aqua for the filtration system and set about plumbing it in. The plumbing was only done rough, as in a few weeks' time I'm going to be demolishing the garage and building a much bigger building in its place. This will then become my new koi indoor pond house, but more about that in another video. Next, I connected and plumbed in a new 15-watt UV and a 3 kilowatt heater that I had borrowed. Next, I connected a new 5,000 litre low energy pump and I was good to go. I then began to fill up the vat with warm water from the tap using the boiler. I ran it in at 16 degrees as my pond is currently at 12.5 degrees. A little tip for you here. If you're adding koi from warmer water, it is far safer to add them from colder water to warmer water. So going from 12.5 degrees to say 18 degrees is okay and will not harm your fish. It is not safe, however, if you add them from warm water to cold water. A maximum of 3 degrees colder is safe. Any more and you could severely stress your fish out or even kill it. Also note, if you are wanting to cool your water down, then you must do this by a maximum of 3 degrees a day. Any more, and again you will stress the fish out and you could end up losing it. Once the water had reached the desired level, I added 1 litre of Evolution Aqua's Pure Plus, several scoops of their marble-sized beneficial bacteria balls, and a pond bomb. I know this is a lot, but you have to remember that the ammonia levels in the vat will escalate quickly, so I'm trying to kickstart my filters as fast as I can. If you're anything like myself, and you like to save a few pennies here and there, go on eBay and look for sodium thiosulfate in crystal form. It's about £7 for 500 grams and maybe £1 or £2 for delivery. Sodium thiosulfate is a chemical that neutralizes both chlorine and chloramine in your tap water. This is exactly the same thing you buy from your local koi dealer, just in crystal form and no blue dye added to the water. If you go to the link shown here, you'll be able to calculate the amount you require for both litres and gallons. All you have to do is weigh out the amount you require for the volume of water. I use mine at 2%, and melt it in some warm water and add it to your pond as you would normally any bought shop dechlorinator. Hopefully this will help you out and avoid the dreaded koi tax. Anyway, back to the treatments of my poorly Chagoi. The treatments I have added to my quarantine water are 3% of dried vacuum salt and aquaflavin. Because the sore on the Chagoi had not fully developed into an ulcer, this I have found over the years is the best course of action. For the treatment of my Chagoi, I have been administrating an antibiotic called Baytril at 2.5% for several days. This has worked well, and there has been no need for any further injections, only topical treatments. For topical treatment, I have been using Germaline, and it has always served me well, but recently I have discovered an antibacterial honey called Manuka honey. It has some amazing properties, and it has even been known to cure some cancers, so I thought I would give it a try on some of the scales that are still yet to be healed properly. The koi has been sedated, and the affected area dried off in preparation for the treatment. I apply the Manuka honey with my finger, making sure the entire area is covered, and wait around 30 seconds for it to cure before returning the koi to the quarantine. As a good rule of thumb, when applying any topical treatment, always avoid the eyes and the gills, as this may cause severe irritation or even irreversible damage. After several treatments with the Manuka honey, I have to be honest, I didn't really see any marked improvements, so I reverted back to my trustworthy Germaline, and this is now what the koi looks like today. Sadly, as with all shags, once the scales have been infected or damaged, they turn black in appearance. This is perfectly normal, and there is a very good chance that given enough time, it could fade, fingers crossed. He's now back in the main pond swimming around happily and eating like a little trooper. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it interesting and helps you on your journey with koi keeping. If you've liked it, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos like this, leave a comment in the comment section. See you in the next video.